Imagine holding a small piece of history in your hand, a coin so ordinary in size, yet extraordinary in meaning. The Missouri State Quarter, released in 2003, is not just a circulating piece of currency, it is a carefully crafted tribute to the spirit of exploration, the courage of discovery, and the cultural heritage of a nation that expanded westward through determination and vision. This coin is more than just metal. It is a time capsule that takes us back to the early 19th century, too, the very moment when the United States was growing rapidly, and when the Louisiana Purchase and the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition opened the doors to the American West, and Missouri became the key gateway to that new frontier. The Missouri Quarter was the 24th coin in the United States Mint 50 State Quarters program, a monumental initiative that began in 1999 and ran through 2008. This program was designed to honor each of the 50 states with a unique reverse design representing its history, culture, and identity. Missouri, which joined the Union in 1821 as the 24th state, had its turn in 2003, and its design immediately stood out among collectors, historians, and the general public because of the powerful imagery it carried. The central theme chosen for Missouri was the Lewis and Clark expedition, which had passed through Missouri on its legendary journey to explore the Western territories after the Louisiana Purchase. The design of the Missouri State Quarter captures the significance of that expedition in a striking way. The reverse side features the explorers Meriwether Lewis and William Clark in a boat navigating the Missouri River, with the famed Gateway Arch rising majestically in the background, symbolizing both the historic expedition and Missouri's role as the gateway to the West. The boat is depicted carrying Lewis and Clark as they point forward, representing their mission of discovery and expansion. The inclusion of the Gateway Arch was deliberate, as it is one of the most recognizable symbols of Missouri, built in the 20th century to honor the role of St. Louis as the starting point for Western expansion. The blending of 19th century exploration with 20th century architecture creates a powerful narrative of Missouri's role in American history. The process of designing the Missouri State Quarter was itself a journey. The United States Mint invited state officials, artists, historians, and citizens to submit ideas that best represented Missouri. The competition drew several concepts ranging from agricultural themes to landmarks, but the Lewis and Clark expedition stood out because of its direct connection to Missouri's geography and its symbolic value of exploration, discovery, and courage. After much debate, the final design was selected and sculpted by Alfred Miletsky of the United States Mint and approved by the Secretary of the Treasury. The design not only honored Missouri's past, but also linked it with a national story of westward expansion. To understand why Missouri was chosen to highlight the Lewis and Clark expedition, we must step back in time to the early 1800s, following the Louisiana Purchase. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson commissioned Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to lead an expedition that would map and explore the vast new territory. The journey began near St. Louis, Missouri, a place that would become the gateway to the West for generations of settlers. Missouri's strategic location on the Mississippi and Missouri rivers made it the perfect launching point for such exploration, and it was from here that Lewis and Clark began their voyage across the continent, charting new lands, documenting flora and fauna, and building relationships with Native American tribes. Their work would forever transform America's understanding of its own land and resources. The Missouri Quarter not only celebrates this historical moment, but also represents the unique culture and geography of the state. Missouri is known for its rivers, its role as a crossroads between East and West, and its agricultural and industrial contributions, all of which tie into the theme of exploration and progress. The coin embodies the spirit of a state that has been both a literal and symbolic passageway for the nation. Whether through river travel, pioneer trails, railroads, or highways, Missouri has always been a place where journeys begin. Collectors were drawn to the Missouri Quarter not only for its historic design, but also because of its place in the timeline of the 50 State Quarters program. As the 24th coin, It marked the halfway point of the series, making it a symbolic milestone for the program itself. Millions of these coins were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, with additional proof and silver versions produced in San Francisco. For collectors, the Missouri quarter became one of the more memorable issues due to its dramatic design and its balance of historic and modern symbols. To appreciate the depth of the Missouri quarter's history, one must also explore the stories of the Gateway Arch and the Lewis and Clark expedition separately. The Gateway Arch, completed in 1965, stands 630 feet tall and was designed by architect Eero Saarinen as part of the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial. It is a monument that commemorates the United States expansion westward and the role Missouri played as the jumping-off point for settlers. Its appearance on the quarter connects Missouri's modern identity to its historical role. The Lewis and Clark expedition, on the other hand, was a defining event in early America, with Missouri as its starting point. The inclusion of the explorers in their boat on the quarter makes the coin almost like a frozen moment in time, capturing the anticipation, the danger, and the optimism of their journey. Over the course of a 2-hour deep exploration into the Missouri quarter, we can trace not only the story of this single coin, but also how it fits into the broader context of American history, numismatics, and culture. We can dive into the origins of the 50-state quarters program and its massive popularity, which brought millions of Americans into coin collecting. For the first time, we can examine the details of the Missouri quarters design process and compare it to other state quarters to see how themes of history, nature, and culture were expressed. We can analyze the Lewis and Clark expedition and the Gateway Arch in detail, exploring their historical and cultural impact and how Missouri came to embody the role of gateway to the West. And we can even look into the minting process, production numbers, and varieties of the Missouri quarter to understand its significance for collectors. The Missouri State Quarter is not just metal, it is art, history, and memory fused into one small circular form. It tells the story of a young nation setting out to explore new frontiers of a state that stood at the crossroads of East and West, of a people who celebrated their identity through both tradition and modern symbolism, and of a program that changed the way Americans looked at their coins forever. Holding a Missouri quarter is like holding a bridge between past and present, and like all great coins, it leaves behind a story that is larger than itself, and one that will endure in the hands of collectors, historians, and dreamers for generations to come. Imagine holding in your hand a small silver-colored piece of American history, a coin that is not only a unit of currency, but also a storyteller of landscapes, heritage, and national pride. The Oregon State Quarter, released in 2005 as part of the United States Mint 50-State Quarters program, is one of the most breathtaking and beloved designs in the entire series. It is a coin that captures the essence of the Pacific Northwest, the wonder of Crater Lake National Park, and the pioneering spirit that has shaped the identity of Oregon for centuries. This quarter is far more than an everyday object. It is a miniature canvas carrying the weight of history, artistry, and national symbolism. And when we trace its story from the earliest planning stages through its release into circulation, we begin to uncover a journey that ties together the geology, culture, exploration, and craftsmanship that all meet in the palm of your hand. To fully appreciate the Oregon Quarter, we first have to understand the context of the State Quarters program, launched in 1999 by the United States Mint. This was the most ambitious coinage initiative in modern American history. Over a 10-year span, every state in the Union would have its chance to showcase its history, natural beauty, or cultural achievements. On the reverse side of the quarter, the Oregon coin was scheduled as the 33rd release, and it entered circulation in 2005, following other Western states like California and Kansas. The program's goal was to engage Americans in collecting and to tell a national story state by state through coins that would circulate in the millions across every pocket and cash register in the country. Oregon's path to selecting a design was a democratic and cultural process led by the governor's office. and in coordination with the Oregon Commemorative Quarter Commission, which invited Oregonians to submit concepts, ideas, and designs. The competition was fierce because Oregon is a state defined by natural wonder, from its rugged Pacific coastline to the Cascade Mountains to the Columbia River Gorge and to the legendary Oregon Trail that brought thousands of settlers westward in the 19th century. Ultimately, the Commission and the people of Oregon decided that nothing could symbolize the state better than Crater Lake, a geological wonder that is not only the deepest lake in the United States, but also one of the clearest and most pristine bodies of water on Earth. The final design chosen for the Oregon Quarter was created by United States Mint sculptor engraver Donna Weaver. The coin depicts Crater Lake in stunning simplicity, Wizard Island rising from the center of the lake, surrounded by the jagged edges of the caldera, and framed by pine trees, and the words Crater Lake and Oregon, with the year 1859 marking the date of statehood. This design perfectly captured the serenity, majesty, and uniqueness of Oregon, while also paying tribute to the geological history that shaped the land millions of years ago. The lake itself formed nearly 7,700 years ago, when Mount Mazama, a massive volcano, erupted and collapsed, creating a caldera that eventually filled with rainwater and snowmelt over the centuries. This rare geological history turned into a national symbol and eventually into an American coin. When the Oregon Quarter entered circulation in 2005, it was minted at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, producing hundreds of millions of coins that would soon find their way across the nation and into collections around the world. Collectors especially value the Denver Mint issues, often noted with the D-Mint mark, because these coins were struck in high numbers, but variations, errors, and conditions make them highly collectible even today. The release of the Oregon Quarter was more than just the minting of a coin. It was a cultural event, and the state launch ceremonies were held to celebrate the coin. And thousands of school children, collectors, historians, and everyday citizens participated. The design was praised nationwide for its artistic beauty and its ability to highlight one of the country's most spectacular natural wonders. The Oregon Quarter quickly became a favorite among collectors, not only for its subject, but also for its clean, detailed design that translated perfectly onto the small canvas of a coin. But the history of the Oregon Quarter does not end with its release. It continues through the stories it represents: the Oregon Trail, the westward migration, and the state's journey from indigenous cultures through exploration, settlement, and statehood. Crater Lake is more than just a geological wonder. It is also a sacred site to Native American tribes of the region, particularly the Klamath people, who preserved oral traditions about the eruption of Mount Mazama and considered the lake a spiritual place. The inclusion of Crater Lake on the quarter therefore connects modern America not only with natural beauty, but also with deep cultural heritage and indigenous storytelling. Over the years, the Oregon Quarter has been studied by numismatists, historians, and educators. It has been used as a teaching tool in schools to talk about geology, geography, westward expansion, and coin collecting. It has become a centerpiece for state pride and a gateway coin for many who first discovered coin collecting through the 50-state quarters program. Its design has been praised for balancing simplicity with detail, unlike more cluttered or symbolic designs. The Oregon coin speaks directly to the viewer, showing a scene that needs no interpretation, just awe. For collectors, the Oregon Quarter has developed its own market story. While it is widely available in circulated condition, uncirculated coins, proof strikes, and silver-proof versions are particularly sought after in higher grades with mirror finishes that make the design shine. Error coins, such as missed strikes or double dies, have also gained attention, creating excitement among specialists and everyday treasure hunters searching through pocket change. The legacy of the Oregon Quarter is also tied to the long-term impact of the State Quarters program itself, which introduced millions of Americans to numismatics and generated billions in revenue for the United States Mint. The Oregon coin stands out in that lineup as one of the most aesthetically powerful designs, a coin that captures a moment in nature, frozen forever in metal, a coin that embodies the serenity, strength, and majesty of the Pacific Northwest. As we trace the 2-hour journey through the history of this single quarter, we are reminded that a coin is never just a piece of money. It is an artifact of identity, a record of the values a people choose to represent themselves to the nation and to the world. The Oregon quarter from 2005 remains one of the most memorable coins in American circulation, a small yet powerful reminder of how history, culture, geology, and artistry can come together in the palm of your hand. And when you look at it closely, you are not just holding 25 cents. You are holding a piece of Oregon, a piece of the American story, and a piece of timeless beauty carried in metal that has traveled from pocket to pocket across the world. Imagine holding a small silver-colored disc in your hand, a coin worth just 25 cents, but carrying the weight of a story that stretches back through centuries of exploration, ambition, and cultural identity. The Alaska State Quarter released in 2008 as part of the United States Mint's legendary 50 State Quarters program, is more than a piece of change. It is a gateway into the history of America's largest state, a land defined by untamed wilderness, immense natural resources, and a story of survival and perseverance that resonates with the very spirit of the nation. The coin itself portrays a powerful design, a grizzly bear clutching a salmon in its jaws, framed by the icy peaks and untamed landscapes of Alaska. And beneath, that image lies not only a tribute to the state's breathtaking environment, but also to its people and its history. The choice of the grizzly bear was deliberate, symbolizing both the power and resilience of Alaska, and the salmon representing the state's dependence on natural resources and the intricate balance of life that sustains its communities. To truly understand the significance of the Alaska Quarter, we need to step back into the origins of the 50 State Quarters program. When the United States Mint launched the initiative in 1999, it was not simply about producing coins. It was about creating a historic journey through the symbols, values, and identities of each state. Alaska's turn came in 2008, one of the final years of the program, and it immediately stood out for its bold imagery. While many state quarters highlighted architecture or historical figures, Alaska chose a living embodiment of raw nature, a bear in action, emphasizing the frontier identity that has long been central to how the state is seen and how it sees itself. But the story of Alaska's quarter is deeply intertwined with the broader history of the state itself, stretching back to the Russian colonial era, the purchase of Alaska from Russia. In 1867, known as Seward's Folly, the Klondike Gold Rush of the 1890s, and the eventual statehood granted in 1959, every chapter of Alaska's past carried with it the same themes we see echoed in the quarter: rugged land, harsh conditions, vast resources, and people determined to endure in one of the most unforgiving but rewarding regions on Earth. The grizzly bear has always been a symbol of that narrative, a creature that dominates its environment, yet relies on the cycles of nature for survival. The release of the Alaska Quarter was more than just a numismatic event. It was a cultural milestone for the state. It gave Alaskans a chance to present their image to the entire nation. Every quarter carried into circulation across the 50 states and beyond became a small ambassador of Alaska, showcasing the balance between strength and sustenance, between predator and prey, between humans and their environment. The coin was minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, with millions of examples struck for circulation, and additional collector versions produced in both clad and silver-proof formats. The release sparked interest among collectors not only for its striking design, but also because it represented one of the final issues in a program that had captivated the American public for nearly a decade. When discussing the Alaska Quarter, one must also consider the design process itself. The United States Mint engaged in an extensive collaboration with state officials, artists, historians, and the general public to decide which symbols would best reflect Alaska's heritage, several designs were considered, including imagery of the dog, sled of fishermen, and iconic landscapes, but ultimately, the grizzly bear and salmon prevailed because of their powerful symbolism and immediate recognition. The final design was created by artist Charles Vickers, whose ability to capture dynamic motion in a static coin engraving made the Alaska Quarter one of the most visually striking coins of the entire series. To dive deeper into the historical significance of the Alaska Quarter, we can look at the role of salmon in Alaskan culture and economy. Salmon is not merely a food source. It is a keystone species upon which entire ecosystems depend. Indigenous peoples of Alaska have relied on salmon for thousands of years, developing sustainable fishing practices and cultural traditions that continue to this day. With the arrival of industrial fishing in the 20th century, salmon became both a contested resource and an economic lifeline. Its representation on the quarter underscores the intimate connection between people and nature in Alaska, much as the grizzly bear does with its sheer dominance of the land collectors. And historians alike have recognized the Alaska Quarter as one of the most memorable issues of the entire 50-state quarters program. Its combination of artistry, historical resonance, and symbolic power makes it a subject of fascination and study. Whether one looks at the mintage figures, the variations between Philadelphia and Denver, issues the proof versions struck in San Francisco, or the broader context of coin collecting in the early 21st century, the Alaska Quarter consistently draws attention and admiration. And so this small coin, a simple piece of currency, continues to tell a grand story. Whenever it changes hands, it carries with it the imagery of a bear locked in the eternal struggle for survival and a salmon representing renewal, sustenance, and the fragile balance of nature for numismatists, historians, and casual observers alike. The Alaska Quarter is a perfect example of how coins are never just money. They are miniature monuments to history, culture, and identity. And to explore the details of this coin, its design, its symbolism, its place in the state quarter program, and its reflection of Alaskan heritage is to embark on a journey as vast and rewarding as the land it honors, a journey that we will now unfold, layer by layer, as we trace the Alaska Quarter from its origins to its impact and the lasting legacy it has secured in the story of American coinage. Imagine holding in your hand a quarter that is far more than just 25 cents of American currency, a coin that tells a story of vast deserts, towering mountains, and wild horses running free across open plains, a coin that embodies not only the natural beauty of a state, but also the rugged independence and history that has shaped the American West. This is the Nevada State Quarter, released in 2006 as part of the groundbreaking United States Mint 50 State Quarters program, a program that between 1999 and 2008 transformed the way Americans looked at their pocket change, turning ordinary coins into miniature canvases of national heritage, culture, and pride. The Nevada Quarter instantly stands out with its striking design, featuring 3 wild Mustangs galloping across the scene, set against the backdrop of snow-capped mountains and sagebrush. With the rising sun casting light over the landscape, the inscription reads, "The Silver State," a proud reminder of Nevada's deep connection to silver mining, a connection that not only earned the state its nickname, but also played a pivotal role in shaping the economy, politics, and identity of the American West. The design by sculptor and engraver Don Everhart was selected from multiple proposals, capturing the spirit of Nevada more vividly than any other image could. To fully appreciate the Nevada Quarter, we must go back to the roots of the 50 State Quarters program, announced by the U.S. Mint in 1997 and officially launched in 1999. This initiative was one of the most successful coin programs in American history. Each year, 5 states were honored in the order in which they joined the Union, with Nevada chosen for release in 2006 because it had become the 36th state. On October 31, 1864, at the height of the Civil War, Nevada's admission into the Union was strategic and significant. It was admitted as a free state providing critical support to President Abraham Lincoln and the Union cause and its abundant silver. Resources helped fund the war effort. When the Mint set out to design Nevada's quarter, the process involved a collaboration between state officials. Artists, historians, and the public Nevadans were encouraged to submit ideas for symbols and themes that best represented their state. Ultimately, the themes of wild horses, rugged landscapes, and silver heritage emerged as the most powerful reflections of Nevada's identity and were crystallized into the final design the wild Mustangs symbolize: freedom, strength, and the untamed spirit of the American frontier, while the mountains in the background highlight Nevada's diverse terrain, ranging from arid deserts to high alpine peaks. The sagebrush adds authenticity as the official state flower, while the rising sun underscores hope, renewal, and growth. The inscription, "The Silver State," ties the imagery together. Silver mining is inseparable from Nevada's history and its future. The discovery of the Comstock lode in 1859 near Virginia City changed everything in Nevada and the entire country. This massive silver deposit was the first major discovery of silver ore in the United States, sparking a rush of miners, entrepreneurs, and fortune seekers. The wealth generated fueled not only Nevada's growth, but also America's industrial development and the Civil War effort. The Comstock lode gave Nevada its identity and cemented its place in American history, making the words, "the Silver State," a fitting tribute. When the quarter was released on January 31, 2006, it was met with enthusiasm from collectors and the general public alike. The coin was minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with hundreds of millions produced to meet demand. Yet despite its large mintage, the Nevada quarter has become one of the more admired designs in the series because of its dynamic imagery and symbolism. Beyond circulation, coins, the Mint also struck proof and silver-proof versions at the San Francisco Mint. These collectible pieces struck with polished dies and specially prepared planchets showcased the design with sharp detail and mirror-like fields, adding prestige to the series. The Nevada quarter is not just a coin, it is a symbol of the state's culture, environment, and history. The wild Mustangs themselves carry deep meaning. These animals, descended from horses brought by Spanish explorers, centuries earlier became an inseparable part of the western frontier. By the 19th century, they roamed freely across the Great Basin and symbolized the spirit of independence. However, they also became a subject of controversy as ranchers and settlers clashed with conservationists over their population and impact. The image of Mustangs galloping freely on the Nevada quarter is thus both an artistic choice and a cultural statement about preserving the freedom and natural heritage of the American West. In addition, the Nevada quarter design underscores the contrast between harsh environments and the persistence of life. Nevada is the driest state in the Union, yet its landscapes are full of natural wonder, from the vast Mojave Desert to the peaks of the Sierra Nevada and the Ruby Mountains. The coin's background of snow-capped mountains against desert flora captures this dramatic diversity perfectly. Collectors often view the Nevada quarter through several lenses. Numismatically, it is part of one of the most collected modern series in U.S. history. Historically, it is a reminder of Nevada's unique role in the Civil War and in American mining. Culturally, it speaks to the mythos of the Wild West. Artistically, it is one of the most action-filled state quarters, with its dynamic depiction of movement through the galloping horses. The release of the Nevada quarter also had an economic impact, like the rest of the 50 state quarters program. It reignited interest in coin collecting across the United States, generating billions in revenue for the Mint through seigniorage and collector sales. The program brought new generations into numismatics, creating a surge in demand for folders, albums, and educational materials. Schools used the coins as teaching tools to discuss history, geography, and economics, and the Nevada quarter played its part in this cultural wave. When analyzing this quarter for its long-term legacy, it is clear that its design resonates with both Nevadans and Americans nationwide. The Silver State is more than a nickname. It is a reminder of resilience, resourcefulness, and the ability to thrive in even the harshest conditions, just as Nevada's people and environment have done for centuries, in the same way the Mustangs that gallop across the coin continue to gallop across the imagination of all who see them. Thus, the Nevada Quarter is not just another entry in the 50-state quarters program, but a lasting piece of American heritage, a small piece of metal that carries within it the story of the American West, the struggle for survival, the bounty of silver, that helped shape a nation and the spirit of freedom embodied in wild horses. This single coin, like so many in the program, proves that history, art, and culture can live in the palm of your hand, and with every Nevada quarter in circulation, that story continues to move forward. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that not only represents the value of 25 cents in the United States, but also tells a story of nature, culture, history, and heritage. The 2017 Ozark National Scenic Riverways Quarter is one of those coins, a piece of metal that is more than just currency. It is a doorway into the landscapes of Missouri, into the waters that carved valleys into the forests, that shelter countless creatures, and into the traditions of people who found life and meaning. Along the banks of the Current and Jacks Fork rivers, this is not just a coin, it is a piece of storytelling struck into metal by the United States Mint as part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program. And to truly understand it, we must step back and explore its history, its design, its symbolism, and the rich natural and cultural setting that gave birth to this commemorative issue. The America the Beautiful Quarters program was launched in 2010 following the incredible success of the 50-state quarters program that ran from 1999 to 2008. The earlier program had captured the attention of millions of Americans, introducing them to collecting through a set of circulating coins that honored every state in the Union when that came. To a close Congress, and the United States Mint knew that the public appetite for coins telling stories was not over, and so a new series was born this time, honoring not just states, but national parks and sites of historic, cultural, and natural importance in every state, as well as in the District of Columbia, and 5 territories between 2010 and 2021. The Mint released 5 new designs each year, featuring different national parks or sites. The Ozark Riverways was chosen to represent Missouri. In 2017, the Ozark National Scenic Riverways itself holds a special place in American conservation history. Established in 1964, it was the first national park area created to protect a river system rather than a mountain, a battlefield, or a historic structure. Its mission was to preserve the free-flowing Current and Jacks Fork rivers in southeastern Missouri. These rivers are surrounded by a rich landscape of springs, caves, sinkholes, and forests that define the Ozark region long before it became a unit of the National Park Service. The region had been cherished by Native American tribes, early settlers, and generations of outdoorsmen who saw in the rivers a source of life, food, recreation, and inspiration. The design of the 2017 quarter captures this essence on its reverse. It depicts Alley Mill, a bright red historic grist mill that has become a symbol of the Ozarks. The image shows the mill sitting along the water, its large structure framed by trees with the river flowing by. Alley Mill was built in 1894 to grind wheat into flour for the local community, powered by the spring waters that rushed through the area. The mill became a centerpiece of rural life in the Ozarks. Today, it stands preserved as a historic site within the park, serving as a reminder of both the ingenuity and the challenges of early settlers. The United States Mint artists and engravers chose this scene because it speaks not only to the natural beauty of the Ozark riverways, but also to the human story, interwoven with the landscape. On the obverse of the coin, as with all America the Beautiful Quarters, is the familiar portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan, and first appearing on the quarter in 1932, this pairing of the enduring image of the nation's first president with the changing reverse designs of national treasures creates a balance between continuity and diversity. In the nation's coinage, the Ozark Riverways quarter thus links America's founding with its living landscapes. When the coin was released in 2017, it entered circulation nationwide, but it was also celebrated with a launch event hosted near the Ozark National Scenic Riverways itself. As with other quarters in the series, the United States Mint organized educational programs and ceremonies to raise awareness about the park and its coin. This was more than a numismatic release. It was an opportunity to draw attention to a landscape that millions of Americans may never have heard of, but could now explore through the symbol of the quarter. Beyond its immediate release, the Ozark Riverways quarter carries significance for collectors and historians alike. Numismatists study not just the mintage numbers and mint marks, but also the design choices, the cultural impact, and the way such coins reflect broader American values. The Ozark Riverways coin speaks to the theme of conservation, a reminder that the United States has invested in preserving natural beauty for future generations. It also reflects regional pride, since Missouri is represented here not by a monument or a battlefield, but by rivers, forests, and a mill that together tell the story of a people and a place. The park itself is vast and layered with history. It protects over 80,000 acres of land and more than 100 miles of river, and within it are numerous historic sites, caves, and trails. Native American artifacts have been found in the area, including evidence of habitation stretching back thousands of years later. European settlers moved into the Ozarks, bringing with them farming practices and building structures such as Alley Mill. Their lives were shaped by the geography around them, and that geography remains the centerpiece of the park. Today, for 2 hours of storytelling, one could dive deep into the details of the Ozark landscape, describing the karst topography that defines the region. The immense freshwater springs, such as Big Spring and Round Spring, that feed the rivers, and the rich biodiversity that includes fish, birds, mammals, and plants unique to the area. One could trace the cultural layers from the Osage people to the pioneers to the conservationists who fought to preserve the rivers in the mid-20th century. All of this history is mirrored in the choice of Alley Mill for the coin's reverse design, since the mill is not only an artifact of human industry, but also an icon set against the power of water and nature. Collectors often ask about the value of such a coin, and while most examples of the 2017 Ozark Riverways quarter are worth their face value in circulation uncirculated, and proof versions sold by the mint carry premiums, and certain errors or rare mintages can be highly sought after. The coin was produced at multiple mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with the latter mint striking special proof and silver proof versions for collectors. These variations add layers to the collecting world and ensure that the coin remains relevant both in numismatic circles and in American culture. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that carries with it not only the weight of metal, but the spirit of a defining moment in American history, a $quarter minted in 2021 that tells the story of a cold December night in 1776 when George Washington led his Continental Army across the icy Delaware River to change the course of the Revolutionary War. The Crossing the Delaware quarter is more than currency. It is a tribute to courage, resilience, leadership, and the enduring legacy of a young nation. Struggling for independence when the United States Mint released this quarter in April 2021, it marked a unique and important chapter in American numismatics because it bridged the end of one iconic program and the beginning of another, the America. The Beautiful Quarters program, which ran from 2010 to 2021, had just concluded with the final issue celebrating the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site, and before the new American Women Quarters program could begin in 2022, the Mint chose to honor one of the most legendary scenes from American history with a one-year-only design. This decision created a coin that is not only historically significant, but also numismatically distinct, because unlike many other designs it was struck for, only a single year making it instantly recognizable and collectible. The design of the 2021 Crossing the Delaware Quarter stands apart for its dramatic portrayal of General Washington the Reverse, designed by artist Benjamin Sowards and sculpted by medallic artist Michael Gaudioso, depicts Washington at the bow of a Durham boat, guiding his men through the treacherous ice-filled waters. The figure is commanding his stance, resolute, his sword sheathed, yet his presence a symbol of leadership and determination. This image does not replicate the famous painting by Emanuel Leutze, but rather offers a fresh interpretation, one grounded in realism and historical respect, capturing Washington not as a romanticized icon, but as a determined commander focused on victory in a moment of peril. This was the night of December 25th into December 26th, 1776, when Washington's army carried out a daring nighttime operation to cross the Delaware River, surprising the Hessian troops in Trenton, New Jersey, and securing a critical victory that reinvigorated the American cause at a time when morale was dangerously low. The obverse of the coin returned to the classic portrait of George Washington by John Flanagan, first introduced in 1932 to mark the bicentennial of Washington's birth. This portrait had been used on quarters for decades, and with this 2021 release, the Mint preserved that traditional design before later transitioning to the Laura Garden Fraser design for the American women quarters in 2022. Thus, the coin serves as both a continuation of tradition and a transitional moment in the history of American coinage. Collectors and historians alike recognize the importance of the Crossing the Delaware Quarter for several reasons. First, it captures one of the most iconic moments of the Revolutionary War. Second, it was issued for only a single year, making it distinct within the broader quarter series. Third, it represents a bridge between two monumental coin programs. And finally, it reflects the Mint's commitment to connecting America's money with America's history, ensuring that each generation encounters these stories not just in textbooks, but in the very coins they use every day to appreciate this coin fully won. Must understand the historical event it commemorates. The winter of 1776 was one of despair for the Continental Army. Many enlistments were expiring, morale was at its lowest point, and defeat after defeat had left Washington's men weary and uncertain. Yet Washington chose boldness over retreat. He orchestrated the crossing of the Delaware, a feat of endurance, skill, and determination in freezing conditions. The soldiers, some with worn clothing and little food, managed to cross the river and march 9 miles to Trenton, where they surprised and defeated the Hessian garrison. This victory breathed new life into the Revolution, convincing soldiers to stay on, convincing potential allies that the American cause still had strength, and proving Washington's leadership under dire circumstances. The Mint's choice to honor this moment in 2021 was no accident. It was meant as a reminder of resilience in times of hardship, much like the revolutionary soldiers who endured immense struggles. Americans in modern times face their own challenges, and the coin symbolically ties the perseverance of the past with the endurance of the present. The Crossing the Delaware Quarter, therefore, is not just a coin, it is a miniature monument, one that honors the Revolutionary War, honors George Washington, and honors the timeless American spirit of rising against adversity. The production of this coin spanned the major U.S. mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with circulation. Strikes as well as proof and silver-proof editions. Collectors quickly took interest because of its one-year mintage status and because it represented a historical theme deeply embedded in the nation's identity. This was not merely a coin for commerce. It was a collectible narrative, a historical artifact in miniature struck in millions, yet cherished for its symbolism. In conclusion, the 2021 Crossing the Delaware Quarter offers a unique blend of history, artistry, and national identity. It is a coin that takes us back to a winter night when the fate of a nation hung in the balance. It reminds us of Washington's leadership, of the courage of the soldiers, and of the turning point that gave new life to the American Revolution. For collectors, It stands as a one-year-only treasure bridging two major programs for historians. It stands as a tangible reminder of sacrifice and victory. And for all Americans, it remains a small yet powerful piece of metal that tells a story larger than itself, a story of liberty, perseverance, and hope, carried across icy waters and preserved in the palm of your hand. Imagine holding a coin in your hand, a small piece of metal with the power to carry history, art, and culture across generations. And now picture a coin that tells the story of a mountain, a forest, and the spirit of America itself. That coin is the 2013 White Mountain Quarter, a shining part of the America, the Beautiful Quarters program. This program, launched in 2010, was designed to honor national parks and sites of natural and historic importance across the United States. Each quarter is not just a piece of change, but a miniature monument to the values that define the nation, and the White Mountain Quarter carries with it the grandeur of New Hampshire, the majesty of the White Mountain National Forest, and the dedication of the United States Mint to preserve and celebrate the land through numismatic artistry. The White Mountain Quarter was released on February 21, 2013, as the 16th coin in the America the Beautiful series, and the first design for that year. It highlights the White Mountain National Forest, a treasured area spanning more than 75,000 acres across New Hampshire and Maine. This forest, established in 1918, has long been cherished for its natural beauty, its ecological importance, and its role in the lives of the people of New England. When you look at the reverse design of this quarter, you are immediately drawn into an image that captures both serenity and power. The focal point is Mount Chocorua, one of the most iconic peaks in New Hampshire, standing tall against the sky with a breathtaking view framed by vast forested slopes and trees in the foreground. The design itself was created by United States Mint Artistic Infusion Program artist Barbara Fox, and it was engraved by sculptor-engraver Joseph Mena. The artistry behind the coin captures the balance between precision and symbolism. The trees at the bottom of the design rise up naturally, guiding your eyes to the peak of Mount Chocorua, which has long been associated with New England. Hiking culture, folklore, and scenic tradition, many consider Mount Chocorua one of the most photographed mountains in America, and the quarter immortalizes it as a permanent image of pride. The history of White Mountain National Forest itself is a powerful story of conservation. At the end of the 19th century, much of the forest was devastated by logging operations, uncontrolled fires, and heavy erosion. The once lush and resilient ecosystem was left damaged, and local communities demanded action. Their concerns gave rise to one of the most significant pieces of conservation legislation in American history, the Weeks Act of 1911. This act authorized the federal government to purchase private land for forest conservation and water protection, leading directly to the creation of the White Mountain National Forest in 1918. From that moment forward, the White Mountains became a living example of how the United States could reverse ecological damage and preserve land for future generations. When analyzing the details of the coin, we can also see how the United States Mint approached the America the Beautiful program with extraordinary attention to historical accuracy and artistry. The White Mountain Quarter was struck at. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints and collectors often seek uncirculated and proof versions, which capture the design in pristine detail. The coin, like others in the series, has a standard obverse featuring the 1932 John Flanagan portrait of George Washington, a reminder that even as new designs celebrate natural and cultural heritage, they remain tied to the enduring image of the nation's first president. But the White Mountain Quarter is more than a design on metal. It is a representation of the deep cultural and natural heritage of New Hampshire. The White Mountains have been a source of inspiration for writers, artists, and travelers for centuries, from the Hudson River School painters of the 19th century, who captured their sublime landscapes on canvas, to the poets and novelists who used the peaks and valleys as symbols of endurance, solitude, and beauty. In American literature, these mountains stand as a reminder of the connection between people and the land, and the coin allows everyday Americans to hold that story in their hands. The symbolism of Mount Chocorua itself is worthy of deeper exploration. Native American folklore tells of the chief Chocorua who left behind a dramatic legend tied to the mountain that bears his name. And over the centuries, the peak became more than just a natural landmark. It became a symbol of the region, a subject of romantic art, and a destination for countless hikers seeking both challenge and beauty in their journeys. When the Mint chose to depict this mountain on the 2013 quarter, it was not simply a nod to the physical geography of New Hampshire, it was a recognition of the cultural layers that make the White Mountains significant collectors of the White Mountain. Quarter often note that its design strikes a perfect balance between complexity and clarity. Unlike some coins in the America the Beautiful series that are crowded with architectural or historical imagery, this one stands out for its simplicity. The mountain, its foreground, and its natural frame. It has a timeless quality much like the landscape it represents, and that has helped make it a favorite among collectors, especially those who seek out natural beauty in coin design. The economic and social impact of the America the Beautiful Quarters program should not be overlooked either. By introducing millions of Americans to the national parks and forests through their pocket change, the Mint fostered awareness and curiosity about the very places the coins depicted. Countless people who may never have known of White Mountain National Forest learned of its existence because they saw it etched onto a quarter, and that awareness fuels tourism appreciation and pride in conservation programs. Over the course of 2 hours, you could explore every facet of the White Mountain Quarter, from its legislative roots in the Weeks Act to the artistry of its engravers, from the folklore of Chocorua to the modern hiking culture that thrives in the White Mountains, from the ecological recovery of the region to the way the Mint immortalized that recovery on a coin. You could trace how the series itself brought Americans closer to their national treasures, and how this particular coin stands as one of the most elegant examples of the program. The White Mountain Quarter is more than currency. It is history, art, nature, folklore, and policy, all engraved on a piece of metal barely larger than a thumbprint, yet holding within it the grandeur of a mountain range, the story of a nation's conservation ethic, and the artistic legacy of the Mint in honoring America's greatest treasures. This coin is not just a collectible. It is a reminder of the American spirit and the timeless power of the land that defines it. Imagine holding in your hand a small silver-colored coin that at first glance seems ordinary, but when you look closer, you find yourself staring at a miniature canvas of American history, culture, and state pride. The Rhode Island State Quarter released in 2001 as part of the legendary United States Mint 50 State Quarters program is far more than a piece of currency. It is a story, a journey, and a timeless work of art that connects us to the past and carries meaning into the present. And the question is, how did this small coin come to represent the Ocean State in such a powerful way? And why does it remain one of the most admired coins of the entire series? The story begins in the late 1990s when the United States Mint unveiled the groundbreaking idea of the 50 State Quarters program, a plan to release a new quarter design for each state over a 10-year period. Beginning in 1999 and ending in 2008, the program aimed to honor each state with a reverse design that reflected its unique history, culture, symbols, and values. The Rhode Island Quarter was the 13th coin in the series, released on May 21, 2001, and it immediately drew attention because of its elegant maritime theme, a theme that could not be more fitting for the smallest state in the Union, yet one with one of the richest nautical traditions. The design chosen for Rhode Island was created by Daniel Carr, an artist who captured the state's identity in a striking image. The quarter features a vintage sailboat gliding through Narragansett Bay, its sails open wide as it catches the wind. Behind it stands the Pell Bridge, also known as the Newport Bridge, one of the most iconic landmarks in the state and one of the longest suspension bridges in New England together. The sailboat and the bridge symbolize freedom innovation and the enduring connection between Rhode Island's people and the sea. The inscriptions include Rhode Island, the ocean state, and the date of statehood, 1790, reminding us that Rhode Island was the 13th state to join the Union and that it proudly carries the title of the ocean state. To fully appreciate the history behind this quarter, you must look back at Rhode Island's founding and its relationship with the sea. Rhode Island was established by Roger Williams in 1636. After he fled religious persecution in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, he founded Providence plantations on the principles of religious freedom and separation of church and state ideas that would later influence the entire nation. Because of its coastline and deep harbors, Rhode Island quickly became a hub of trade, commerce, and shipbuilding. By the 18th century, the state played a critical role in maritime commerce, including the whaling industry, the rum trade, and the controversial but historically undeniable triangular trade system. Rhode Island shipbuilders and merchants were among the most skilled and ambitious in the colonies, and their success helped fuel the prosperity and growth of the region when the American Revolution erupted. Rhode Island was one of the first colonies to declare independence in May of 1776, a full 2 months before the Declaration of Independence was signed. Rhode Island's maritime strength gave it an advantage during the conflict as privateers and merchant vessels turned into armed ships that harassed British supply lines. The deep waters of Narragansett Bay became the site of several important military maneuvers, and Rhode Island sailors played an outsized role in the struggle for freedom. This rich naval legacy is why the state quarter's sailing theme resonates so deeply. The Pell Bridge featured on the quarter is another symbol of progress and ingenuity, built in 1969. It connects Newport to Jamestown and is one of the longest suspension bridges in New England. Its sweeping design and engineering brilliance are celebrated both for their practical function and for the beauty they add to Rhode Island's coastal landscape. Pairing the bridge with the sailboat was a conscious decision to show the duality of Rhode Island's identity, a balance between its historical traditions of sailing and shipbuilding and its modern achievements in engineering and infrastructure as part of the state quarters. Program Rhode Island's coin was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with standard circulation strikes, as well as proof and silver-proof versions. Collectors quickly embraced the coin, not only for its artistic beauty but also for its symbolism. The United States Mint reported that millions of Rhode Island quarters entered circulation, yet higher-grade specimens and proof strikes became highly desirable among numismatists. The design also sparked local pride within Rhode Island, as residents felt the coin captured the essence of their state in a way that was both historically accurate and visually stunning. The program itself was a massive success for the United States Mint, as the 50 state quarters became one of the most collected coin series in history. It brought millions of Americans, young and old, into the world of coin collecting, and it gave each state the opportunity to tell its story through imagery. Rhode Island's quarter stands out, not only because of its design, but also because of the layers of history it represents, from the colonial era to the Revolution, from commerce to modern engineering, from tradition to innovation. The coin serves as a bridge across time. Collectors and historians often remark that the Rhode Island quarter is a masterclass in design balance. The sweeping lines of the sailboat and bridge are framed beautifully within the circular canvas of the coin. The inscriptions are clear and dignified, and the composition is both dynamic and elegant. This has made it a favorite in teaching numismatics and design, as well as a prime example of how a small coin can carry enormous meaning. If you were to expand the story of the Rhode Island quarter into a full historical narrative lasting 2 hours, you would dive deeper into the origins of Rhode Island's maritime culture, the development of its harbors, the rise of Newport as a major seaport, and the role of its sailors and shipbuilders in both war and peace. You would explore the Industrial Revolution in Rhode Island and how the state balanced its seafaring traditions with textile mills and factories. You would trace the construction of the Pell Bridge and its role in connecting communities and fostering economic growth, and you would examine how the state quarters program itself revitalized interest in American coinage at the dawn of the 21st century. Every detail from the sailboat to the bridge to the inscription, the ocean state reflects a carefully chosen piece of Rhode Island's identity, and the quarter serves as both a teaching tool and a symbol of pride. It is not merely money, it is a piece of art, a slice of history, and a reminder of the bond between a people and the waters that surround them. And that is the story the Rhode Island quarter tells every time it changes hands, every time it is collected, every time it is studied and admired. It carries with it the weight of history and the spirit of the ocean state.